I get to show you how to make these kitchen knobs.
We recently did a kitchen refresh and decided that the old knobs just weren't going to cut it. So the first thing I did was hopped online and tried to find out what I liked. And that's when I found out how expensive kitchen knobs are. So I decided I'm going to make my own. After a few minutes in Fusion 360, I had a design that was ready to be 3D printed. Supports on a 3D print. You know, sometimes you win with them, sometimes you lose, but most of the time I try to stay away from them if I can. That being said, with this model, I wasn't going to sacrifice that rounded top because I thought that really gave it a unique look, very modern look, and so I chose to stick with supports. Normally they're really hard for me to remove. This time I actually got away with just pulling them right out. When you are dealing with supports on a 3D print, the part of your print that is in contact with the supports is going to be really rough, either way, no matter what. And so you're just going to have to sand them away, and it takes forever, but the finished product should be worth it. I started with 80 grit sandpaper, came up to 100, and then 150. Just cut them up into strips and sanded down the whole knob. You want to sand really well here because any layer lines or any flaws are going to show up in your mold, and that will reflect on the finished knobs. So take your time here and just sand really well.
Okay, so I have the plan. Here's how the plan goes. We have our model, sanded, ready to go. We're first going to cast it in the silicone mold. I don't know if it's actually called casting, but we're gonna make a mold out of it using this high strength 3 that I got off of Amazon. After that, we're going to cast it in this casting resin. It's white, opaque, so I think it should be ready to use after we cast it in here. Let's give that a go. Top. Okay. Let's talk about this silicone mold. So this kit is actually a 10-to-1 ratio. Usually you get 2 different liquids that you have to mix together. And a lot of the time you can get them so that they're 1-to-1. So you just do half of the amount that you need in A, and then half the amount you need in part B, mix them together, and you're good. This one is actually a 10-to-1, so you gotta really pay attention when it comes to measuring. Here is what they call the catalyst. This is the 1 part, and this is the 10. They give you some little measuring cups. So when we pour this out, we're gonna need to know exactly how much of this we poured and of how much of this we poured. So I've noticed when you're doing this, you want to have everything that you need in place. It's a pretty fast process between when the silicone starts to harden, and there's a few things that you need to do. So the first step is we're going to have to secure this at the bottom of some kind of container. I chose this cup. We're just gonna glue it down to the bottom. After that, we're gonna have to mix our 10-to-1 ratio of the catalyst and the silicone rubber using this scoop, which they say is 2 of these, is 1 of these. Then we're gonna pour those into a mixing cup, mix that up, pour it with as little bubbles as possible into this guy. And then after that, we're gonna need this sander to try to shake all the air bubbles out. And so just having everything in place is gonna make this a lot less stressful and hopefully end up in a better product. Well, I am sad to report there were 2 pretty major issues with the molding process. So first, like you guys saw, I didn't make enough molding material. Poured it and it barely even covered about 2/3 of it. So I had to rush and mix up a whole new batch and add it to the first. I think that went okay. But when I was sanding to try to get rid of a lot of the bubbles, I looked at the piece and I noticed that the knob was moving around here at the bottom. So that means it came loose from the cut. That's no good because it could float to the top and completely ruin the mold. Luckily, I think it's still down there, if you can see that. So hopefully it's saved. I got some cutters to cut away the plastic so I can get the mold out of there, and then some a razor blade to cut away at the mold to try to release the knob. So we're about to find out if all went well. Resin time! Alright, so we finally get to mix up these two resins, pour them into our mold. Hopefully we have a good product. You can't really tell now with the mold whether it's going to be good or not. There might be some bubbles hidden in the crevices. You only really find it out after you take out the resin. So I got this new resin product which is super thin, which is good to prevent air bubbles. And it also, when it cures, it's opaque and it's white. So I might not need to paint or anything else like that. So let's give that a go. First, I'm going to use this rubber band and go over my mold with it just to keep it secure after I made all those cuts. Then we're going to use one of these again to stir the resin up. And this resin is a 1-to-1 ratio, so just get to use one of these little measuring cups. It shouldn't take very much resin to fill up this mold. I think it's ready. Time for the big reveal. I'm nervous. Alright, let's see how it goes. Okay. Don't want to break this mold. Almost. All right. Can you see it? Oh, they had it. Obviously some sanding. I don't see any air bubbles. Well, maybe a few on the backside. None on the front surface, which is the most important part. Or the sides. I think this will work. It's a little tacky, a little sticky, but I think it just has to cure a little bit longer. It's only been like 10 minutes. This product cures really, really fast. So, but look how opaque that is. See, that's exactly what I was shooting for. I'm looking for something that is a lot not so see-through. And yeah, this will do it. Alright. Okay, now we're gonna work on step 2. So step 2 is where we drill a hole in the base of these knobs so that we can put in this threaded insert in which one of these screws go in. Now to do that, we have to drill a hole as close to the middle of this base as we can and make sure that it's not too deep to puncture the knob. I had a little test piece and it ended up being really off-center. And so I didn't like the way that turned out, and it was kind of difficult. And so I ended up 3D printing this guy, and it's got a hole all the way through it. And so what this does is gives me something I can insert the knob into and drill through and know I'm hitting the center every time. It would be really easy if you have a drill press. I don't have a drill press, sadly, so this is my next best solution.
resin I chose for this product is actually meant to be painted over, and so different liquids and whatnot adhere to it really well. Well, obviously for kitchen knobs, I don't want that, so I decided to go with a clear coat. Now, I really like the flat look of the knobs as they are, so I went with a matte clear coat. I did 3 coats of that pretty evenly across the knobs, and I think that turned out really well. It gave it a slightly smoother surface, but no extra sheen. Like I said, I wanted that flat look, so to be able to get the protection that I wanted and still maintain the looks that I wanted was great.
I'm really excited with how today's project went. The knobs turned out great. They ended up being cheaper than buying them online. If you would like to make your own, I will have links in the description to all the products I used. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.